Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be another live movie review for you guys. The last few reviews I'm going to be doing for 2017 are all going to be live. I already did one for Lost City of Zed, and now I'm going to do one for the second to last movie of the year, at least, for this year at least. And this is a film that I have very much been looking forward to for a while now. It's been very controversial, to say the least. A lot of people have been talking about it, and finally, I have gotten a chance to see it. I didn't know if this film was going to see the light of day this year, but in fact it did. And that is none other than the very controversial All the Money in the World. And what All the Money in the World is essentially about is we center on the Gettys and mainly on John Paul Getty. And basically, he is the grandson of J. Paul Getty, and basically he ends up kidnapped, and we then end up following his mother, played by Michelle Williams, and she lives in a family that, her family isn't very, rich. They don't really have a lot of money, and basically she is given this deal where if she sends her son's kidnappers ransom, she will be able to get her son back. So she goes over to her father-in-law to possibly, J. Paul Getty, to see if she can inquire his services and get some money from him. But things go awry when he essentially tells her he's not going to, and she is to try to convince him otherwise. And that's really all I'm going to say. So, All the Money in the World, I was honestly really looking forward to this movie, to be honest with you. Originally, let's talk about before the whole Kevin Spacey thing went down, because obviously it was very popular after that. I don't think many people even knew about the movie until the Kevin Spacey thing, but prior to the whole Kevin Spacey debacle, I was really looking forward to this. I thought this looked like a really compelling film. I didn't really know too much about J. Paul Getty, and I thought this looked like a really good performance for Kevin Spacey. You got Michelle Williams, Mark Wahlberg, and it seemed like a return to form for Ridley Scott. I know a lot of people are not a fan of Alien Covenant, and this definitely seemed like the right kind of film he needed to do. But then the whole Kevin Spacey thing happened, and from there, I was just very worried about this film, which is understandable. I mean, I think one of the words that we all kind of just suddenly just froze up when we hear is the word reshoot. I mean, most times they don't really end well. Sure, there have been some that have gone okay, but the majority of films that get reshoots, it does not usually go over well. And I think that's what I was very worried about with this movie. I was sure this was going to be the next The Snowman. Like, that's exactly what was going to happen here. It was going to be re-edited. It was going to be a fucking mess because there's no possible way they were going to be able to get it done in 9 days. And I have to say, that's really not what this is at all. All the Money in the World is a very well-done film. I really love this movie, honestly. This is probably one of my favorite movies of the year, to be completely honest with you. I really did enjoy this film, and we're just getting into it, starting off with the cast. And someone who really I don't think is getting a lot of credit, but honestly should, is Michelle Williams as the character of Abigail Getty. I love this character. I mean, obviously, I know she's a real person in real life, but this is easily one of the best Michelle Williams performances I've seen because of, again, her dedication. She really loses herself in this role. This is a mother who throughout the film is constantly in a state of distress. She's constantly, doing whatever she can to get this money for her son, to get her son out of, the kidnapper's reach. And I just love seeing how far she would really go. I mean, even though there might be other things on her mind, saving her son, that is what's paramount over everything else. And I think Williams just conveyed that perfectly here. I cared so much about her character. And one of the best arcs with her, besides her going through that, is also the fact that she's not really a Getty. She's recently divorced her husband, and she's starting to feel like she's not as much of a Getty, so she's kind of going through that as well. And I really love Michelle Williams did here. She took a character that I think could have been honestly very one-note and just brought a lot of life to it. She really gave this character, I think, a real heart. She definitely is one of the scene stealers of this film for sure, and like I said, she absolutely killed it here. But of course, you guys aren't here for me to talk about Michelle Williams. I mean, as good as she was, what are we here to talk about? We're here to talk about Christopher Plummer, because obviously this is a very interesting casting decision, which, it should be noted that this was Ridley Scott's original casting. He wanted Christopher Plummer, but they told him no. Kevin Spacey, they wanted him because he's more well-known, and now he's, obviously Kevin Spacey's well-known now, but for the wrong reasons. Now he's able to get Christopher Plummer, and honestly, after this role, I can't really see anyone else playing this role. Christopher Plummer is absolutely magnificent in this role as J. Paul Getty. He is perfectly cast, and he perfectly transformed himself into this character who's not really that likable. I mean, this guy is someone who, he has so much money. He was known as the richest person in the world, yet he's not willing to do anything and pay any sort of sum of money for Abigail's son. As much as he loves Abigail's son, which they have a really interesting bond in the film, to say the least, but as much as he does care about her son, he's not willing to, for some reason, get her the money. And we don't know why. He's just, for some reason, he's not into the idea. And he's someone who we see in the film is so fixated on the idea of money that he doesn't feel he has enough of it. And he's constantly searching for more. And the way that this kind of, has taken over his life, it's just very well realized here. And if there are points where you do kind of feel for Getty, you wish that he could have had a better life, and I do think Christopher Plummer played this role perfectly. He's got some fantastic scenes. Film every single scene with him, he steals the entire show. I mean, he chews up so much of the scenery. He perfectly transforms himself into this character. This might be some of the best work I've seen from him in a while. Christopher Plummer's not an actor that I'm that well known with. I mean, obviously Sound and Music is the first thing that comes to mind, but this might be rival that performance. Like, that's how good he was here. It might be the best work I've ever seen from him, honestly. He was absolutely phenomenal in this film. And I can honestly say, after watching this movie, I can't really see anyone else playing this role. This role was clearly written for Plummer, and you can tell that Ridley Scott really used that to his advantage. And I think, honestly, Kevin Spacey, as good as he would have been, I don't think he would have been able to top how great Christopher Plummer really was here. But the rest of the cast here as well is fantastic. Mark Wahlberg definitely does a really good job. He plays Getty's financial advisor. He's someone who, he's trying to coax Abigail through this situation because obviously, like I said, she's very high-strung throughout the film. She's really not in a good state at all. She's constantly worried about her son. And, I did like where he ends up going here. And he's not just one note. I thought he was going to be, but he actually does have a bit more to him, especially when it comes to Getty and the role he really plays in his life. And I thought he did a really great job. Someone I have to talk about is Romain Davis. Romain Davis is so creepy in this movie. He's the main kidnapper, of John Paul Getty, and he is so sadistically good. I mean, this is someone who, he has an agenda. You can tell he has an agenda, and the lengths he's willing to go just so Abigail can get him the money faster is insane. I mean, this guy is extremely demented, and he played this role perfectly. Also, Charlie Plummer, I have to talk about him. Again, not a lot of people talk about him, but I thought he was perfectly casted. I thought he did a really great job as Paul. I really liked his character here. He's someone where you sympathize with him right away. You can tell exactly what he's going through. I think his role is very well realized. He doesn't have a ton to do, but it's one of those performances where it just really says a lot, and I think he definitely does a really great job here. So, and there's some scenes with him that honestly went into some really dark territory that I wasn't expecting, but like I said, he really killed it. I think honestly everyone really gave it their all here. And again, for a film that went over so many reshoots and so much, almost production hell. I mean, there was a point where I didn't even think this movie was going to see the light of day because of the whole Kevin Spacey stuff. And I can't believe they actually pulled it off. I really can't believe these actors really gave as good performances as they did, but they really stayed committed and they did a great job, honestly. Now, let's talk about the directing by Ridley Scott, because as good as the performances are, I think he's really the thing to make this movie so great. Because to me, Ridley Scott was very passionate about this. You could tell this was a passion project for him. This was something where he really wanted to get it done, and he pours his heart and soul into this movie. I mean, this is a film that is very thrilling. It's very suspenseful. You're very much on the edge of your seat, but it also is a very good character study on these people and the situations they're going through, and I thought he did a really great job with it overall. His directing was just very well realized here, and he even has some good comedic stuff with Getty. Getty does have a lot of humor throughout the film. I thought that was implemented very well. Just the tone in general, the directing was just as perfect as it could possibly get. And honestly, I want to see him get nominated. I really do. I don't think it's going to happen because there's a lot of possibilities, but I really would love to see Ridley Scott get nominated for this film just because of the fact he was able to pull this off. I genuinely didn't think it was going to work out, but he pulled it off, and I honestly couldn't be happier what he delivered here. But the screenplay as well, I definitely want to talk about, because the screenplay here is so well constructed. Sure, we've seen this plot line so many times where someone's kidnapped and someone has to try to get money to them, but the fact this is based on a true story, I think, is what really makes this film stick out. This did in fact actually happen. It's crazy that something like this actually happened, but it did, and I think it honestly is a very interesting story. It really gets us into who Getty was as a character, and there's a lot of interesting arcs going on throughout the film, and the film really does have a lot to say about the idea of greed and power and what happens when you are so powerful. Do you want more power and you're just accumulating more? And that's kind of what Getty's going through in this film. He's just so powerful, yet he still doesn't feel satisfied. He keeps wanting more and more. He's just that greedy of a character that he just needs more, and I thought that was so well portrayed. It could have come across as really annoying and just very distasteful, but it's Plummer again. Between Plummer and the script, they just do a really good job of showing who Getty was and how, I guess, you know, powerful he really was and how this really kind of destroyed him. And I thought they handled that perfectly here. The one thing I will give this film in terms of writing is that, as much as I did like Charlie Plummer's character, there isn't really a lot that big of a reason to care for Paul, other than the fact that he is a Getty and he is in fact related to them. Other than that, there isn't really much more of a reason to care for him. But it's so well presented, it doesn't really hinder my enjoyment of the film overall. I thought that was honestly very well done, and I thought the stuff they did with him, like I said, it was so sadistic, and again, it goes in some very violent directions I wasn't expecting. That's something I also really enjoyed. Also, cinematography of this film is gorgeous. The 70s setting is very well realized here. I thought, you know, it's just a very vibrant film, but there are scenes that are also very dark, and I thought just the cinematography here, like I said, was very well realized for sure. The score, I love the score of this movie. I really do enjoy the score. It's not going to get nominated for Best Score, but I really do love the score. I've been humming it ever since I saw the film. I thought it was definitely a very well done score for sure. And then the editing to this movie as well. It is a long one, I will say that. And sometimes, just sometimes, the pacing is a little bit off, especially in the beginning of the film. There is this flashback portion, and it's necessary. It needs to be there. It's telling the story. It's getting us to know these characters, getting to know the background, and getting us to care about this specific event. But as much as I did enjoy these flashbacks, it did kind of hinder the pacing just a little bit. It threw me off at first. I'm like, okay, you know, when is this really going to end? And when the flashbacks do end, it did feel just a bit abrupt. But again, the rest of the film was so well constructed, I really can't complain here. You might be asking about the reshoots, guys. In terms of the reshoots here are so seamless to the point where I really couldn't tell what was reshot and what wasn't. Obviously, stuff with Christopher Plummer was, but any of the scenes with Michelle Williams and Mark Wahlberg, including Christopher Plummer, I honestly couldn't tell that they were reshot. It seemed like they were there from the beginning. It didn't seem like this was a last-minute thing. They look the same. I mean, maybe Mark Wahlberg, he's short. People talk about his body weight and things like that, but other than that, I think it honestly looked the same, and I think it's some of the best reshoots I've ever seen. Again, I think it shows how much care Ridley Scott put into this. He wanted this to turn out as well as he possibly could have. He crafted it into something great, and I honestly couldn't be happier. It's a very fluid narrative. It's a very well done narrative. It's honestly very brutal. It also gives us a very good look into the character of J. Paul Getty, who he really was. It has some of the best performances all year, especially from Christopher Plummer. He better get nominated for an Oscar. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't. And it just is one of Ridley Scott's best films I've seen from him this decade. I still think The Martian is the best he's done this decade, but this is definitely a very close second. And I am going to give all the money in the world overall in A. So yeah, like I said, guys, this is definitely worth checking out. I know a lot of people are very, you know, on the fence about this movie, but I definitely would recommend it. For what they had to go through, they honestly really did pull it off. And again, I really couldn't be happier with the final product. But that's it for my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall. Left your thoughts. And once again, thank you for 22 Tiger Dude for editing this video. I definitely do appreciate it. He's pretty much gone out of his way to do it, and I really appreciate the fact he's doing that here. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in my next video. I do have one more movie review coming before I give you my best list, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.